In a Wall Street analyst question and answer session, Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang talked about the advantages Nvidia holds and why it gains so much market share in the data center space optimized for artificial intelligence. He also went on to discuss the importance of the shift in the large language models from regular inferencing to reasoning, which requires a lot more computation, and how that's going to work in NVIDIA's favor. So I wanted to discuss those things in this video and what it could mean for NVIDIA stock investors.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
So Nvidia CEO saying that people say Nvidia's position is so strong because our software stack is so strong. Our training stack has a lot of components, and when companies are developing this technology, they want everything included. They don't want to develop separate components themselves. So they like what Nvidia offers in the full stack solution with software included, GPUs, CPUs, networking, everything they need. Nvidia can offer them, and that's partly what's allowed Nvidia to gain such significant market share in this data center space optimized for AI. And that's great news for Nvidia stock investors because that's a stronger competitive advantage. Anytime you do more value activities for your customers, it makes it more difficult for competitors to duplicate your success when you're a leader. And Nvidia is certainly a leader. So if Nvidia was just doing one single thing, then the competitors can reverse engineer whatever components in the technology Nvidia was delivering and eventually catch up or develop similar products, maybe for a lower price with slightly lower performance. But when you're doing so many things, let's say you're doing 6 things and your competitor has a 90% chance of copying each one thing, that whole solution, 90% of each one, the probability of being able to offer the solution NVIDIA offers, the percentages decline with the increasing number of things you do for your customer. So that's where NVIDIA's competitive position is so strong. That's why I've repeatedly said that competitors like AMD are at least 2 steps behind NVIDIA. So that gives investors a strong position in NVIDIA, knowing that competition is far behind and the category is growing so robustly. The CEO went on to say that reasoning generates a whole lot more tokens. The way reasoning works is the AI is just talking to itself. Goes on to say that you now have to generate a lot more tokens, but on top of that, you have to generate these tokens way faster. And the reason for that is nobody wants to wait until the AI is done thinking. So you need more computation for reasoning to take place, and you also need that computation to happen more quickly to deliver the results for customers, to keep them engaged and keep them coming back to your specific large language model. And that's where NVIDIA stands to benefit. When you have this type of increase in computation needs, well, NVIDIA is the provider of that computation. So you have demand increasing. NVIDIA is pretty much the only supplier to this category. Well, there are other suppliers, right? You have AMD, you have Intel, you have companies like Amazon, Alphabet, and Microsoft developing their own chips for computing. But those are all way behind NVIDIA, regardless of the metric you're using. NVIDIA, you can deliver the same type of computation power at a lower cost when you use NVIDIA's technology. Or for the same price, you can get way more performance using NVIDIA's technology. So whether you're trying to get cutting edge performance or whether you're trying to get existing performance at a lower cost, NVIDIA is the solution that is the answer. So in that way, Nvidia stands to benefit from this acceleration in demand for computation as a result of this next evolutionary breakthrough in large language models. The more these models improve, the more consumers will use them, the more they will engage with them, the more demand for computation will increase, and NVIDIA can provide more of that. And the increasing computing power will lead to more breakthroughs, etc., in that positive virtuous cycle. This can move forward for several years because we're just in the beginning stages of this. You only had the development and the introduction of these large language models in late 2022. So we haven't even been 3 full years into this technology, and we've already seen so much improvement in the technology in such a short amount of time. And so, of course, that leads to the development in DeepSeek, the R1, right, from China. This large language model came out with very strong performance with less spending, less computation, and that created a fear that all of these companies can develop the large language models without so much investment, and that was a risk to Nvidia. Well, saying everybody is going R1 came, the amount of compute you need is going to zero, right? The CEO talking about and exaggerating the fears that came out in the marketplace, where they said, well, if this technology can be developed with such low computing, you're not going to need so much computing power, and so demand for NVIDIA's products will go to zero, right? An exaggerated viewpoint. So this cloud service providers, they're going to cut back. And then there's rumors of these cloud service providers canceling orders because they now saw what happened with DeepSeek, and they can do the same with lower investment. But NVIDIA said that inside the system, the amount of computation we need just exploded. So they were seeing the opposite, right? While the market was panicking because of DeepSeek, because of those developments, NVIDIA was seeing the opposite. NVIDIA was seeing an increase in demand because you had this breakthrough in technology, which is what I discussed. When you have that kind of breakthrough in technology and the cost per unit of performance declines, you get an increase in use case, you get an increase in demand because you can now deliver that technology at a lower cost, which makes that technology more viable in more use cases and could create an increase in demand for the technology, not a decrease. And that's what the CEO is talking about here, saying that they actually saw an increase in demand as a result of China's DeepSeek, not a decrease like the market was fearing. So again, more good news there for Nvidia stock investors. Hey everyone, so many of you have been asking about my investing strategy, and I'm excited to announce that I've written a book that's available for sale now that describes my 6-step investing framework for evaluating stocks. I've added the link in the description below.